Von Fry, legendary badass, not shy, telling you how it is, Von Fry will die.
Well guys, I just returned from the Hangover Part 3, and so here is my review / rant in the format that we're now hopefully familiar with, because as we know, doing a good job is not recognized on YouTube if you are not from Los Angeles or New York City. So, let's get into this. Our movie starts off just outside of Bangkok, in a prison, because everybody knows that prisons are just outside of Bangkok. There's this guy walking through amid a riot, and we find out that in the opening credits, we got our main guys, the Wolfpack, and listed right in that batch is Kim Jong. So I knew that Kim Jong was going to be hijacking this film, taking it hostage at knife point. And he does. He immediately jumps in on the scene. It appears as though he crawled out through the wall of this prison in an homage to the Shawshank Redemption with a poster covering it up. He's going through the sewage system. Some guys are going after him loosely. They never really seem to be in pursuit. We hear noises. And then all of a sudden some water comes and it flushes him out like a great, fantastic water slide. Then we cut to Alan, Zach Galifianakis. He's going down the highway, and he's got like a Mercedes E-Class. Not really something you tow things with, and the convertible no less. And he's pulling a giraffe that's not sedated. This guy's head sticking up, 12 feet into the air and everything. And that's kind of random. As he's going down the highway, he's going right below the overpasses, everything's checking out fine, but he's not really thinking this through. Kids are watching, and they're like, oh, look, there's a giraffe. And he's like, hi, my name's Alan, I bought a giraffe, and he's really friendly. And then all of a sudden he goes to under this overpass that's listed at 12 feet, the giraffe's kind of smiling. Uh-oh. Boom. Head comes flying off. You don't actually see the head come flying off, but you see the head go into a windshield in CGI fashion. And then it looks like it's a practical effect in the second shot. So, this scene doesn't actually look that great. That's kind of disappointing because thus far, and even from the onset, this series delivered a more polished presentation as far as visuals than you usually expect out of a comedy. And I think that probably enhances the facts behind how much money it's made, is that it looks good. There's a lot of dreck out there in terms of comedy, romantic comedies in particular. So, the giraffe's dead, of course. He's getting a talk from his dad about how he bought this giraffe, and son, you shouldn't be doing this, you need to change, you're 40 years old. I'm 42, okay, you're 42 years old, you live at home, like myself, 28, but anyways, he's getting this talk, and he's like, yeah, whatever, Dad, whatever, chill. So then he puts on his headphones, listening to some Billy Joel, and his dad's in the background yelling at his mom about how he needs to change and all this stuff, and then he has like a heart attack and like drops dead, and people are trying to resuscitate him, and Alan doesn't even seem to notice it. Kind of funny. My face during this whole movie was as this. I never actually laughed, though people surrounding me were in great laughter for most of the film. And the weird bit here is that I go to a 10 o'clock showing on Wednesday. Very unusual time for a movie to be starting its national tour. And so, I'm surprised that many people knew about it, but this place was packed. This is in one of the largest theaters in my city, Wichita. It was actually packed, and I was somewhat taken back by that. I showed up about an hour early, thought maybe that was overkill, and then people just piled in like 5 minutes before the movie started. And it was a young-ass crowd, and it was an Asian as hell crowd. Must have been a lot of Kim Jong fans. Who knows? Maybe Jamie Chung fans. She had a couple of lines. you know, the girlfriends and the wives don't do a whole lot for most of the crew. More on that in a bit. So people are talking at the wedding. Or, sorry, not the wedding, the funeral. And I mean, I saw all this coming. The commercials, even the latest commercials, go as far as to tell you who died. It's like, oh, I'm going to miss my dad. Well, I mean, come on. I saw it coming, but now you've like completely advertised it, literally. So they're like, what are we going to do with him? And Jamie Chung's character actually is like, oh, so I've heard about this place and whatever, and you know, we can have an intervention. Yeah, okay, well, we'll do that. And so they're like, okay, we're sitting down with him. We're going to have a talk. You got to go to this place, New Beginnings, I think it was called, and get your life straightened out. Well, how am I going to... Oh, don't worry. We'll take you there. Oh, really? Phil? I mean, all you guys? The Wolfpack? Doug? Yeah, okay, let's go. So, the Wolfpack plus Doug, because he's really... You know, he's one of the friends, but he never gets to partake in the antics. And that remains true here. They go on a bit of a road trip in a Dodge Caravan. Don't know who would want to do that as adults, but they do. And then they get swerved off the road by these guys in pig masks, Porky the pig mask, and they say, look, you know, one of them loses his mask. It's Black Doug, as they say, and he was in the first movie, not the second. At least I don't think he was. Black Doug's there, and then John Goodman gets out, cusses up a storm, and is like, you guys are responsible for everything that's gone wrong in my life. 4 years ago, you bought the wrong drugs from this guy over here, and that brought Chow into my life, you know, Ken Jeong's character, and you're going to find him, and he stole this gold from me, and you're going to get the other half of it back, and it's showing these flashbacks. And I think they're actually genuine snippets from the first movie. And it seems like a sort of backtracked, retconned way of making sense of it all, in some regard. I guess the second movie is completely thrown out. Like, there's one quick joke about the erased facial tattoo on Stu, and it doesn't really add up to much. So if you saw the first movie and the third movie, I guess you're doing fine. Anyways, they have to find Chow, who's escaped from the Bangkok prison. He's somewhere in the area. They learn, okay, actually Doug gets kidnapped. And it's like, if you don't find him, you got 3 days. 3 days over, we're killing Doug. And it's like, okay, you actually found plausible way to put Doug, like, out of the movie, out of the mix, without it being induced by a hangover. And that's something I really like about this version. In this movie, the hangover is not what's causing them to search for these missing pieces and they find in the morning kind of stuff. I just thought that was stupid from the onset, because even from the very beginning of the franchise, I'm thinking, I would rather see them get in trouble than see them try to figure out how they got in trouble. As it just seemed like common sense and stupidity is what drove those films. And here they actually have a kidnapping plot, and so there's something driving it, I feel like. I feel like it's a better storyline. So they're looking for Chow. It turns out that Alan got a text message or an email from him, and then they agree to meet up in Tijuana. I think that's what he said. Tijuana, whatever. And they go there, they find him, they have a bit of a chat about where they're going to get this gold. And he's like, oh, well, one of my houses, I have this model over here. And they had a little bit of a funny bit here where it's like, okay, you guys know what's happening? This is Alan. He's like, you guys know what's happening? We're not breaking into the miniature house because that one's too small. Like, there's a big house somewhere. And that was one of the better jokes in the movie. Again, I find this all coming a mile away. Like, even when John Goodman's talking about how Chow screwed him over, and he's like, yeah, he screwed me out the ass. And then Alan's like, well, he does that from time to time. And I'm like, no, that's not the way punchlines should roll. Like, that time to time, that ruins it. Well, he does that. It's his style. But that's his thing. that would work for me. That would be better. So, I've never really found these funny. So maybe I'm just an outcast. But they go into the house. They have a fairly interesting idea. Like they poison these hamburgers, feed them to these guard dogs. There's no one on watch, but they put the dogs' collars on and go in through the doggy door. They, in a colorblind fashion, hack the security system, cut the wires. They get the gold out, and then Chow leaves them behind, just locks them in the basement. And then there's this reveal about them going to jail. They get bailed out, and they get driven up to that place again in a limo. And I'm thinking, so whose house is this? It's either Mike Tyson's or John Goodman's, because Mike Tyson, I'm expecting him to make an appearance, and there is no Mike Tyson appearance nor mention. Probably for the betterment of the movie, because he's not really an actor. So, this movie has one less convicted rapist in it. It's John Goodman, and he's like, okay, so somebody's got to pay for this. You guys were tricked by Chow. You broke into my house and stole the other half of the gold. Now I want all of it. Boom, shoots Black Doug. That's the guy you see falling into the pool. At this point, I'm like, okay, man, I was really getting concerned that Doug or Ken Jeong was getting killed as the person near them that falls in the pool. So, mildly amused, surprised? I don't know. Well, they end up taking the limousine. He's like, look, you guys can have the limo. I know he jacked your Dodge Caravan and all that shit. You guys go find him. Phil lost his phone, and he's like, yeah, well, I guess I had it in the Dodge. And Alan's like, oh, well, I got this app for finding my phone, and we can use that and get your phone back. I'm not entirely sure that works. But they track the Dodge Caravan through the other guy's phone, even though one of them's lost. Go with it. It's parked outside a cash for gold store, a pawn shop. They go inside, and that's where they see Melissa McCarthy. Is that her name? And she's like, kind of got a thing for Alan. And at this point, you really start to understand that this movie, as criminal as this may sound, has something to say as far as one of the characters is concerned. Like, this is Alan's movie. This is the movie. The other ones have set up the other guys for marriage, or they were married already, whatever. But Alan, he's coming into his own. He needs to get his shit together. He meets a girl, and then we're going to be moving on to the next step of that soon. So he's kind of got this thing with Melissa McCarthy, whatever, and she says that this guy came in. He was Asian-y. He had a gold brick worth $400K, only wanted 18, and was going to go get some hookers and blow and stuff. And like, yeah, that's definitely Chow. So now what are we going to do? Oh, I know. Well, we know a hooker, and maybe she can help us find some of these hookers that have been partying it up with Chow. Help us locate them. So they go to Heather Graham's place. She's aging okay. Like, would not hit it, but that's another argument altogether. The weird thing is, like, most of the girls in this movie are like, damn, like, what's her name? Sasha something? The chick from The Ring that was smoking outside of the funeral? Man. Right. So, they go to her place, and they see this little boy, and his name, I think they said it was Tyler. And they're like, whoa, that's the kid. Alan's like, hey, can I sit down and talk to him for a little bit? And he's talking to him, and yeah, he looks like the kid, he's a little bit older. He's got a weird look to him, like, oh, you're a cute kid. But when he grows up, it's gonna be like, oh, you're a pedophile, right? Like, he's gonna be a weird looking adult. I'm sorry, kid, but that's the honest truth. And he's talking, it's like, your name was once Carlos. He's like, well, are you my real dad? Yes. And so they have a bit of a bonding moment. There's actually a lot put into the thought behind the Alan character in this movie. Be damned if a bookend of a trilogy is going to try to wrap up a character in a comedy series these days. But they're really moving this guy along, like pretty good character development, and that was kind of what surprised me here. The other movies didn't say shit as far as this. It was just antics. And so they wrap this up with the kid. You know, the mom's like, yeah, so the party, whatever, over at Caesars. And so they head over to Caesars. Oh, by the way, Alan gave him his sunglasses to Carlos, or Tyler. And they head over to Caesars, like, yep. So, talk to the people inside. We're going to need, like, a card key. Andy's got security guards. And can you imagine which room it is? Yeah, it's that one up there with the strobe lights. And I'm like, any day of the week, that could be anybody in Las Vegas. Like, that's crazy-ass town. What makes you think that Chow's the only one with the strobe light party? If you've got one of these penthouse kind of suites at Caesars, you have to have strobe lights. They're probably installed. Like, they don't have incandescent bulbs or OLED. No, none of that shit. They just got strobe lights up above. Jump cut. So, they're like, well, we're going to go back to where this all started, essentially. And maybe I forgot the part where I mentioned that they'd gotten to Las Vegas, but evidently they're in Las Vegas, right there at Caesars. So they go on top of Caesars Palace. I think that's where they were in the first movie, where they lost to Doug. And they go, all right, so here's what we need. Stu, you stay down in the car, in the limo, and try to keep an eye on shit, I guess. Phil, Alan, they go to the top, and they're going to put some bed sheets together and rappel off the side of the building. It's really not that far, but I wouldn't want to make the jump. Alan, he gets stuck, like, on top of one of the S's, and it puts the bulbs out, and meanwhile, right below him is Stu, and he's like, come on, just jump down. Don't push off the wall. And he completely pushes off the wall when he jumps, and, like, almost seemingly intentionally tries to jump off the side of the building, but Stu grabs him to comic effect. Not entirely realistic looking, but again, better than most effects efforts you see in a comedy. And, at this point, people are making a shitload of money, and there's a lot of money being thrown into the production. They go inside. There's some girls saying things that were not audible, but they proceeded to walk through the strobe light area to the bedroom. There's a couple of Asian-looking chicks on the bed, one of them running around, and they actually had a fight with Chow, and they took the gun from him, and he's running through the room, and he's like, come on, get down from there. He's about to jump from the side. He's like, you can't kill someone who's already dead. And he jumps up the side and gives everybody the finger. And then the parachute deploys, and he goes sailing out. In the commercials, you see that he's got a parachute. Like, the commercials or trailers these days just lead you to the set pieces, the jokes, and you're actually, when you go to the movies, you're paying for the shit that happens in between. Like, okay, so how are we going to get to the part where Chow parachutes down the Las Vegas Strip? And now we're watching it. And that's what commercials and shit do. And it's a contributing factor behind why you should not go to the movies anymore. Alright, so Stu, he's in the limousine. He's going to go through the strip, follow up above, and I think this is a real parachute effect over here. So they have an actual stunt double for Chow as he goes down, and he loses him for a bit. Fishtails, does like a J-turn, heads down probably the wrong street, and then Chow lands on top of the limo, and they're like, typical, I'm surprised, I'm screaming. They get into a bit of a wreck. Hardly. I think he probably hit a fire hydrant that somehow didn't shoot a whole bunch of water. Not like the ones in Lethal Weapon. And they're like, oh no, I think I killed Chow. And they're like, no, that's terrible. I'm like, really? Is he really a friend? So he's like, no, he's fine. It turned out he was okay, but put him in the trunk. Okay, fine. So they put him in the trunk. Where Chow belongs. And so they're like, okay, we've got Chow. We're going to go meet up with these guys 4 miles out. Take this turn over here. I don't know why, but it seemed as though they drove a long ways. And they're like, okay, take this turn, then 4 miles in the desert. And then the next thing you know, they're like up on top of a hill overlooking the city, and they could be 4 miles out of the city. But I just got this feeling that they had driven like all night to a secluded area. It's mildly secluded. But anyways, John Goodman shows up. He's got a Maybach also. He's got the Maybach. He's got Doug. Black Doug died, of course. But this is Doug, Justin Bartha. And he's like, okay, a deal's a deal. You guys got the gold. I guess that's all it is. You know, Chow said he spent half of it. But here you go. Here's Doug. And where's Chow? Oh, he's in the trunk. Oh, okay. Boom, 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 boom. Start shooting the trunk up. And it's like, guys, Chow is madness. You don't talk to madness. If you're lucky, it gets stuck in the trunk of your limo and you shoot it. And they're like, oh man, that sucks for Chow. Then Chow comes flipping up out of, I guess, the front area's moonroof, and just gets the gun, boom, boom, shoots John Goodman and his buddy, who may not have necessarily deserved it, but anyways, kills them too. He's like, okay, guys, so how did this happen? Well, Alan, he, like, undid the back seat, flipped that down. I'm not sure if you can do that in a limo. That'd give you, like, a hell of a lot of cargo bed, wouldn't it? A lot of ski poles. So, they're like, and then you give him a gun, and yeah, okay, sure, whatever. So Chow's talking, he's like, okay, guys, you guys are losers. I'm going to kill you. I said I was going to kill you. And Alan stands up to him and he's like, no, if you want to shoot Phil, you're going to have to shoot me first. And he's like, no, I like you, so, you know, here's a gold brick. And he's like, oh, I don't want this. And I'm like, no, man, you're supposed to be independent and shit. You're supposed to want that. It's probably tainted in some way, you know, probably some bad stuff. So, I don't need that, and whatever. Well, okay, fine. We'll get together in a few days. You know, I'll call you. Nope. You gotta stay out of my life. You're a bad influence for me, and I have to grow up in all this. So we're done. We can't be friends. Then they all part ways, and they head back to the pawn shop where I guess the Dodge Caravan has been sitting this whole time, unusable, maybe. And they're like, well, I mean, I guess they could have used it, but whatever, because I think they ended up taking off with it. But Alan's like, guys, I'm going to stay here. And like, do you even know how to get home? Yeah, I'm an adult. I'll ask a stranger. Some of his lines are pretty decent. If sprinkled in a better place, this character could work for me, but anyways, he goes inside, talks to Melissa McCarthy a bit. It looks like they're going to have a bit of a date. He pulls his pants down, and she's like, that might be a little early. Okay, I'll see you at 8 o'clock at the Golden Nugget where they have the best buffet or something like this. Or steak, or whatever it was. And then you get like a bit of a flash forward kind of thing. It's like 6 months later, and he's getting married. Cassandra, I believe, was her name. And it's like, oh, hey, I got a top hat, and yep, life's really looking good for you, Alan. Yep, sure is, you know. I'm going to be spending a lot of time with Cassandra, and yeah, I think I need to get out of the wolf pack. I think it's time to get rid of the wolf pack. And you're like, oh, but, you know, that's sad. And really, I think Stu and Phil are like, yes, no more wolf pack. Almost killed us. So they're walking, the four of them, actually, Doug included. They're walking out of the room, and you get some flashbacks from different times when the four of them were walking. Like, we're going to conquer Vegas, we're going to conquer Bangkok, and you know, you get a little bit of a nostalgia factor going there with the shots. To me, it only seems like maybe a week ago. My life doesn't change very much because I live at home, like Alan. So we get that, and then we get a bit of a credits playing. People are standing up, and I'm like, what are you guys standing up for? It said there was going to be brief graphic nudity, and that means male front. I hadn't seen no male front yet, so you guys better sit down. And boy, was I right. So, at the very end, we see this like daredevil stunt Harley Davidson, like, kind of like cut out in a wall, just like it's crashed through there. A machine gun shooting off rounds like crazy at nothing, and not waking people up. I guess these suckers are loud as hell, and just complete chaos. And then people start coming to, and it's like, here's your hangover, guys. This is the hangover. And I mean, I kind of expected it as soon as we understood that the Alan character came to such fruition that he's getting married, that he's taken that kind of step, that there's going to be a hangover that ensues. And then, well, Stu walks out, and he's got implants, okay? And it looks a little bit, I guess it was as good of a job as they could do, but it comes across looking like the 3-boob chick in Total Recall is what it looks like. I'm talking about the first one, by the way. So, everybody's laughing at that in the theater. They're just killing over. Then Chow walks out, and he's like, bitches, we had a hell of a time. He's got a katana, no clothes on whatsoever. I don't want to say like anything about Asian stereotypes here, but do you think that they probably like digitally erase him up a bit down there so that he's got like nothing? Because like that's seems a bit odd to me. Anyways, I guess the cake at the wedding was from Chow, and it made them do some freaky stuff. And then you're thinking, you know, sure, you could look at this as setting up a 4th movie, like, oh, now Melissa McCarthy joins the group, and all this shit, and really, no. It's like, no, this, you had a hangover, this brings it full circle. Wait, we got our hangover. You can call this the hangover. I like people are going to be against this movie for the fact that it's not a rebadging of the first movie. The first movie, oh, we got shit-faced, now we have to figure out what happened. Second movie, exact same thing, but you change baby with monkey, and you got the same movie. This movie, the monkey does make an appearance at the end, but it's not like there was actually a character standing in for these things. It's not like they met a bunch of weird-ass people trying to figure out what shit happened to them in a way that I thought was anticlimactic in the other ones. You know, this one actually had a sort of drive, like you were participating in the movie. The other stuff I just thought was quite trite. So, structurally, I like this better. The other ones didn't bring characters anywhere. I guess Alan started out as a complete outcast, and then he grew to have friends in the first one. This one, he grows much more. There's much more character development. And that's surprising to me. The jokes, again, not real funny. If the first ones were your cup of tea, sure, maybe this one could be too. I'd give it 2.5 stars. I think that's like right in the area I've been giving the franchise. Probably the best of the group, but not funny enough for me to give 3 stars. Like, look, the mission of a comedy is to be funny, and if your comedy is not funny, then it's kind of a mission failed. So I can't really give it my strong recommend for everybody kind of rating at 3 stars. So it's more of a niche rating recommendation. If you like the other ones, sure, check this out. Be glad that you're not getting the same shit for the 3rd time. You know? And I probably ruined all of it for you. Commercials did more than I did. Trust me. Oh yeah, and also, accompanying trailers. Now look, I know that people who've discovered this channel knew that I did stuff about movies for quite some time, that I program a film festival, that I have people who are friends that are in the industry and all this stuff, and they kind of want some of my insight on some things. You know, it had been to the point that I'd seen trailers so often that I would rather get to the movies late than have to watch them again, but since I go to the theater so sparingly now, and honestly, don't count on me going to the movie theater much more this season, as I hate this culture of reboots. This idea that here comes Man of Steel. It looks okay. The effects kind of look like shit, but it looks expensive and ambitious. And storyline, you know, save for the Amazing Spider-Man style, let's redo the character's origin shit, even though everybody in the audience already knows, it looks like it's okay. In terms of Superman has foes that can stand toe-to-toe with him, possibly. And there could be some excitement. And with Zack Snyder, I expect it to be very over the top. And it looks kind of fakeish in a very odd, stylized way that doesn't look realistic to me, some of these effects. And I don't even think the guy who plays Superman has a word in this trailer at all. But I don't really count on me seeing that movie. It just I'm not interested in rehearing the story of Superman's origin. Like maybe if I showed up an hour late, I'd watch the rest of the movie and be like, hey, if I pay $5, can I come in halfway? It's halfway over. I know what happened to Superman. I don't need to see that shit again. And they'd be like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work that way. I'm like, but you understand where I'm coming from. And they'd be like, no, I don't, because I'm influenced by the media. Then I saw a trailer for Robotech. Pacific Rim. Okay, so there's giant sea creatures that come out of a portal in the ocean from another dimension. And they're enormous. And they wreak havoc. So instead of blowing them up with, and this is what's hard to believe, like, people in this world know the destructive power of explosives, and they know that, like, a daisy cutter will kill anything. And yet there's going to be some stupid reason that doesn't work in this movie. And so the humans band together to build giant-ass robots to fight the sea creatures. And, it's weird. Like, I watch a lot of Red Letter Media. I think those guys are great. I watch a lot of their Best of the Worst, and recently they did a thing with robot jocks. And it looks a lot like that. Like, robot jocks with modern technology and an ass ton of money. And you got the giant robot jock shit going on. Like, you got the same thing. The giant robots that, I guess they're more maneuverable here, but it's not even remotely realistic to take place any time near the present and expect robots of this caliber to be made while the world's being destroyed by giant creatures. There ain't no way in hell I'm watching this movie. And to top it off, in the trailer, there's this robotic voice, like, dropping robot 1 unit deployed. And I'm like, really? You can't get a person on the intercom to say something? Like, why program it with the most annoying robotic voice, synthesized voice thing you could think of? And that's the selling point. Like, oh shit, this does not look good, boys. Those are the only 2 trailers I saw. Those are my thoughts on The Hangover Part 3. Seacrest out.
Do 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 do.